Welcome to Quilting on the Side, the podcast for quilters who are building a business while juggling real life.
I'm Tori from Hey Tori, a quilter, past pattern designer and teacher, and now a digital marketing coach for quilting entrepreneurs.
And I'm Andi from True Blue Quilts, long arm quilter, pattern designer, and quilting instructor.
Between the two of us, we've taught workshops, launched programs, joined summits, and stayed up way too late trying to finish one more quilt binding.
On this show, we're sharing what's worked and what hasn't in our interviews from incredible guests, everyone from quilting solo business owners to CEOs.
So if you're running a quilting or creative business or dreaming about starting one, you'll find real talk, honest strategies, and a whole lot of support here.
So grab your notebook, grab your pen, and let's dive into another episode of Quilting on the Side. Welcome to another episode of Quilting on the Side, and we have been kind of consumed behind the scenes of planning for a trade show, and so a lot of our episodes this season have centered around H&H, but I thought we could just back up a little bit and talk about trade shows in general and kind of the history and some of the spilling the tea for the quilting industry, because for so many years, Quilt Market in Houston in the fall was the ultimate destination for business owners. And there was some big news recently.
Yes, I love spilling the tea. I'm glad we have an episode where we're just kind of like chit-chatting, and we don't know the details. We don't know anything happening behind the scenes, so all of this is speculation. But yeah, the big news was that Quilt Market has been canceled indefinitely, which is like mind blowing for us in the quilting industry.
Yeah, because they had decades of being the destination event, the place where businesses, shop owners could talk to fabric companies, could talk to Checker to get their notions. All these different business connections happened at Houston at Market. And to hear, and it was kind of a slow roll. They canceled spring because for a while they were trying to do events around the country in the spring. And the last few years we saw H&H take over that time slot and really got to be popular. And then, yeah, that news that fall market was canceled was a big explosion in the quilt world.
It was, and I I wouldn't take it as because I think a lot of people are taking it as a bad sign that the quilting industry is somehow slowing down, when most projections on the quilt industry is either staying the same or even rising. Yeah. And some even like say it's going to be big. Um, but a lot of that is anchored in machine sales. So it's going to be interesting to watch over the next couple of years, like the up and down trajectory. There you go. The trajectory of the quilting industry as a whole, especially now that we don't have Joann's, because Joann's was a nice blanketed department store that a lot of people was able to get supplies for our craft for quilting. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the industry as a whole. But I don't think this is such a bad thing. I think that Market, now I've never been to Market. I always heard about it. It was always this like, I don't want to say holy grail exactly, but like it was always like this thing that if you were a real business, you finally got to go to Market. And I never reached the point where I had the funds or the time to go to Market until like this year, and like it canceled.
Right. Yeah. Got to experience Market once, and that was way back in 2005. My mom was a fledgling shop owner and she decided to go, and I got to tag along. So yes, I can say I have been to Market, and it is as overwhelming as everybody says to walk this huge convention center and see all of the booths and things. Sample spree was always the fun thing, which is just, everybody gets intoxicated with I've got to have the latest and greatest stuff, and it really is kind of chaotic. And silly when you are sitting in your house on a weekday having coffee. You're like, why would I be running around? It's think there's enough for everyone. We don't need to get crazy about it. But there have been rumors, whisperings for many years that that model was outdated, especially with the rise of the internet and the popularity of social media. There wasn't that premiere aspect, that debut of brand new stuff because people leaked things
Mhm.
online, and so it wasn't as exclusive as it used to be. So I thought that was an interesting trend.
Well, I also think there was a barrier there for entry. Like I said, you had to, it was like the holy grail of businesses. You had to have credentials and prove that you were in business for, I forget the exact specifications you needed, but you had to prove that you were a certain kind of business, certain level of business to even go. And that just felt like a huge thing for me to even surpass. So I think that was probably something that discouraged a lot of people from even trying. And then I also think that and this is completely my opinion. Um, I always get nervous sharing my very personal opinions, but I think that that show, from the sound of it, like I said, I never got to go, but from the sound of it, was very much geared toward brick and mortar
Mhm.
and did not embrace the digital shops or like the strictly online shops or even that side of the creators that are becoming influencers and sharing and selling that way. Like they didn't open enough to them, and that's where the industry, I think, is I think it's still going that way. Like, I think that that is gonna be a major part of the industry is getting online. I still think it's gonna grow. I still think brick and mortars we still need brick and mortar shops. I think they are amazing for our quilting community, and they are such great places to bring community together. But online is where a lot of the newer generations are finding quilting, are finding stitching, they're finding the machines, the advice, the lessons to even get started. Most of them are now finding all that information on YouTube University, or they go to their local shop, and a lot of them are still not as friendly as we would hope that they would be for new quilters or younger quilters or male quilters even. And I know that there are some amazing shops out there that are completely welcoming for all those groups, for anyone who walks through their doors, but there's also a good amount that are not welcoming. So that um, community, that demographic is online because that's where they feel welcome. And I think the show in particular did not leave room for those kind of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas H&H did.
Mhm. Yeah, and, like, the thing that I where my mind went as you were talking was how H&H is making space for that online creation, having a studio that people can access on the show floor or
Mhm.
very close is incredible because, like you said, they are recognizing that influencers and creators, that online piece is a very valid and necessary piece of the business. And yeah, it's unfortunate when you see um the parent, I can't remember the name of the parent company of Market, but I think that was the feeling over the years that they were not moving with the times as much as they could have, and, it was kind of, um, surprising, but not totally unexpected that they would, tap out of of that, market in that industry. So, but there are plenty of plenty of other shows, like we said, we're both really excited about going to H&H, and, yeah, it's just exciting to see where that, business to business, connection is happening because there's also, Crossroads as part of Road to California, and that is a business to business enterprise, um, that I think will be just as exciting as H&H in the future.
Yeah, so Crossroads is specifically for California. So, I mean, they're following the show of Road to California. So if you've never heard of Crossroads before, that's okay. It is brand new. They haven't even had a show yet. They are still planning it. The first one is going to be in January 2027. So keep an eye out if you're on the West Coast, especially for Road Crossroads. It seems like it's going to be a really cool show. It's again put on by the people who put on Road to California, and it's a very popular West Coast quilting show. One thing I did want to touch on, bringing it back to why I think H&H is becoming so popular, because a lot of our industry professionals that we've been talking to about H&H, because I've been sharing a lot about H&H over the past like month and a half. I'm all about H&H right now because that's what I'm planning for. But I've gotten questions about, is it worth it? Like as a quilting person to go to H&H, because H&H also involves the knitting community. It's fiber art. So it's knitting, stitching, beading. I think there was even basket stuff last time. I did avoid some of the areas because there was no crossover for me there. But there are a ton of different industries in there, and they have like a fashion show. They have a cosplay section, and I can't remember if they have a fashion show, but I think they have a contest. I'm pretty sure they have a cosplay
Mm.
contest. And all of that is inviting all these demographics into the same space. And what it's doing is, for me, it's fascinating as a marketer because I'm like, what are all the industries doing? And watching, I never realized how big the knitting industry was. I had no clue. I've shared that before on a podcast. I was shocked at how big the knitting industry was. And I was like, what if we can share our marketing? What if we can share our trends and our concepts so that those that are interested in quilting can also do knitting and things cross over and we work together? And it can be this entire collaboration of industry, like craft industry businesses holding each other up. And that's the feeling you get at H&H. It's not like, oh, and there were a few people I heard from, the facilitators of some of the classes that they were complaining that there were more knitting versus quilting. And I was like, y'all, like these business concepts, they cover both. Like just because they're using knitting examples doesn't mean it doesn't apply to you. It does take a little bit of creativity. And honestly, if you need help, I'm here at DMMC, Digital Marketing Magic Coaching. I am happy to help you translate all the business and marketing concepts. So, and I'll be there in booth 1707. Again, just always talking about H&H. But I think that it's an amazing community to lift each other up. I think we're getting ideas from each other. The energy in the room is like palpable, and it's hard to explain. Like you said, when you're sitting at home and like you're describing sample spree, it is hard to imagine being in a frenzy to go grab the latest fabric bundle, but that's what happens at the show. You get all excited. Everybody's whispering about it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's like, "Do you know where the Moda booth is?" I was right across from the Moda booth for Sample It, which is basically Sample Spree, but at H&H. It's called Sample It, and it's their cash and carry event where, like you just described, they do a very similar thing where they have wholesale product out and people rush in. And I was right across from Moda, and Moda had taken over 4 tables where I had one. And the amount of people that, and they were at the far end, like furthest corner, and the amount of people that mobbed that booth, like they were sold out in probably 30, 40 minutes, completely sold out. They left at least 15 minutes early because they were just done. They had nothing left. And like that kind of energy is, you're surrounded by it, and it's exciting. And even if you don't have a specific plan when you, I do suggest you have a specific plan, but if you don't and you're just wanting to know, you lost the entrepreneurial spark, let's say, and you're trying to reignite it and you have the funds and the time to go, it is worth it. It has classes, it has community events, it has the show floor where you can talk to distributors and vendors and notions and fabric and knitting people. Like you can go all over the place. And I know a lot of us do like embellishments on our quilts. So you can go talk to the beading people. You can go talk to the people that do fusible for applique and for other projects. Sorry, I'm like going on and on. But I think that's why H&H is such a success, is because unexpectedly, these industries are working together. They're lifting each other up, and they've given this space for us to do that. And
Mhm.
it's really cool to see.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about the crossover and how much you had an eye-opening experience seeing all the yarn, crafts, um, just because I'm that much older and my mom actually had both fabric and yarn in her shop, so that was my first experience was see, and yes, there are people that are devoted to only one side, but there are plenty of people that do both. I mean, at my guild meetings, there are a handful of people that are knitting while they're listening to the Quilt Guild presentations. Um, and while they're distinct crafts, there was a gal I'm remembering back from, 20 years ago when my mom's shop was open. There was one person who was making like knit sock patterns, and the same motif that was on the socks she put on a quilt. And so she could market them together. So yeah, that was fun. And we've talked before about how you don't need to monetize everything in your business. And so for me, knitting is that side project. It's my travel project. I don't do it all the time, and plus I live in Phoenix, Arizona. It's going to be 100 degrees next week. I don't need knits wool sweaters. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I try to tailor that, that aspect of it. But it is,
With
and I'm looking around. I've got cross stitch projects in almost every room of my house because that was my big hobby from like age 10 to 25. So
So I'm wondering if because you have your hand in many crafts, are you excited to go to H&H to also see those other industries and what they're doing?
yeah, I think it'll be really, really fascinating. And I'm gonna have to put a padlock on the wallet because I can't dabble in anything else. I have to. Yeah, I need. I My house is already taken over by quilt stuff, so I can't bring in another hobby because I went to visit a yarn store. And, picked up a skein of yarn for Mother's Day. And I was so tempted by the looms because I'm like, weaving would use up all the yarn that I don't have time or energy to or desire to make sweaters. But, so yeah, it's all fascinating. And I really do think that, like you said, the marketing principles for any craft you can boil down to some essential features, and they will work whether like you said, whether you're basket weaving or knitting or quilting. You can share, the key components in similar ways.
And it gives you new ideas to try. Like one thing I thought one let's see, marketing concept that I took away from the show was for because one of the things I did last year was all about publishing because I wanted to launch the SPI, self-publishing incubator. So I was in all the publishing things, all the panels, all the classes, all the things. And a lot of them were geared toward knitters. So I'm thinking, okay, how can I apply this to quilting? And I'm sitting there with that lens, like, how can this apply to quilting? And one thing that one of the knitters did very successfully was to write a book of patterns and then sell the most popular ones separately. So she could reuse them, and she told the audience, like, all of them are in the book, but you can also buy them separately. So those that didn't want the entire book and just the popular patterns, they could just get those, and it was a good money maker for her. So it was, like, multiple ways and it became she said that a few of her, like, her super fans, I would say, and, yeah, SPI language, or that's a different one, that's the different SPI.
No, yeah, that's Pat
Pat
Flynn's
Flynn.
book.
Yeah, Pat Flynn would call them super fans, but her most excited people that follow her most excited fans, they bought both. They became like a collectible. And because they wanted to keep the book nice, they bought the pattern so that they could get it all messed up. They could write on it, they could fold it all different ways, they can carry it with them, but the book could stay nice. And it worked for her really well. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we could do that in the quilting world. But I find that a lot of quilters are very much like, well, I've already published it here. Why would I do that there? It's like, because there's two different audiences. There's a reason why other crafts do this. It's like, let's open our minds and let's try something new and see if it works. That's one of my favorite things about H&H is that with those different worlds, we get different ideas and it can give us inspiration to try new things. I love that.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
we
that's
also
wonderful.
know that they took over. So, okay, now that we know that market is canceled indefinitely, we saw a few weeks later after that announcement. What happened, Andy? What happened a few weeks after that?
H&H announced a fall show. So they're not only going to be in Chicago in May of 2026, they are also in Houston in, I think, the late September. They didn't get the
Yes.
same exact dates as Market was going to be, but they're similar time frames. So yeah, it was like, okay, a space opened up. We're going to take advantage, and I commend H&H for really being an industry leader now
I mean,
in
I think
that.
they've got can I just say they got balls? Like, is that okay to say on our podcast? Whoa,
Yes,
okay, like, when that happened, everyone was like, "Oh," like, but, like, excitement, but also like, "Oh my gosh," and then, like, just every are they talking to each other? Do they know what's happening? Like, it became, like, this, like,
yeah, and
conspiratorial, like, conversation. It
which
was kind
kind
of
of
fun.
goes back to some of our previous conversations about how, um, like, how nice quilters are supposed to be, and it's a business, you know? If there's a market opportunity and I can go in and make money, hello, I'm gonna do that. So, yeah, quilting and the craft industries, they're seen as grandmotherly and nice and just, we have to give things away for free. No, no, we're gonna make money and make business decisions, and it's not personal, it's business. So,
Mhm. And what I like to keep in mind with this and the growth of H&H in particular is it helps everyone grow. Whereas Quilt Market was very much quilting, which was really good for the time. And I think because the limitations they kept putting on themselves and their participants and stuff, that I think that H&H has done a better job of reaching more people and helping our industry as a whole grow. And that's what we need. We need to get new people in and grow the industry. We need to keep getting new people in, but also encourage and nurture those that are already in the industry with new projects, new ideas. And that doesn't mean we can't do, that doesn't mean we have to keep printing fabric every month. There was a while there where it felt like there was new fabric lines like all the time and it was just exhausting. So I'm glad that slowed down. And we want to be conscious of the environment and everything that goes along with it. But having new things to keep people involved in the quilting industry, it helps grow everyone, and then we can stay in business. Because if we're not growing as an industry, our businesses are gonna start to suffer, and we won't be able to keep doing any of this part-time or full-time because there's just no one there to market to.
right.
And if we villainize somebody like H&H, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a very valid point in terms of villainizing. We don't want to uh, badmouth the organizers of Market. They did a wonderful job for many, many years, and it's sad to see them go. And yet, we're excited about H&H. So, uh,
And they still have festival, and they have their
yes,
their craft I'm gonna get it wrong, but it's like knit stitch. What
hmm
was it? Craft,
I
knit, stitch?
something like
Graphic
that.
knit,
Yeah, I
stitch.
haven't I haven't paid too much attention. Those are
Yeah, they're
the customer facing shows. So.
yeah, so that's gonna be really cool to see. I think that is a good pivot. I think that that is kind of embracing more of what we talked about, which is, moving more people in a general craft, direction rather than just quilting, which we have QuiltCon for quilting. We have our local regional shows. We have AQS, shows that travel around. We have all kinds of other shows. So I think this one is gonna be really fun to see how that one grows. I think that was a great idea of theirs. I'm really excited to see how everything goes. I think it's been a really interesting year for the quilting industry.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Um, so I think we can put that topic aside, but I do want to talk since kind of the theme is the pivot of business to business shows. We can also talk about the pivot because you recently launched a new endeavor.
I did. I'm officially heytori.tech. That is my new domain. My new business name is Hey Tori, and that's been really really fun. It reset my SEO, which I should have expected, but like that little part didn't anticipate. So that's been fun to watch from the ground up. So now I get to kind of rebuild, and it's been really really fun.
Yeah, those rebranding efforts seem like a momentous task, but I'm glad you're seeing good results from it. So everybody can check out heytori.tech. to find the details on the digital magic marketing coaching program and self-publishing incubator if you've got book ideas and yeah, all the good stuff.
When I've been working on a new logo for H&H, or a logo quilt.
Yes, yes, show me.
So I'm gonna hold it up for those on YouTube so you can see it, but it's my star.
Yeah, it's a wonderful multicolor star with blues, and it's in between
Blue,
red
it's
and pink.
like
What are you calling
yeah.
that shade? It's got some yellow accents too.
Yeah, it's like a rose, kinda like a dusty it's not a dusty rose
Mhm.
kind of color, but, yeah, it works with the cover of the book, which was where it originated, and then I just started incorporating it in everything. Because I originally when I started the rebrand, I switched to just my name, so I was like Tori McElwain for, like, a year because I didn't know what to call myself. I'm like, "I'm not really a quilter anymore, like, I'm not doing workshops, I'm not doing any more patterns or any new patterns," so I stepped away from the Quilt Patch by Tori to start using Tori McElwain until I decided on a name, and that's what made the rebranding a lot easier was because from like all my marketing stuff ended up just being my name. So it was really easy to just be like, okay, now it's Hey Tori. Like, um, but yeah, so this is from the book originally, and I incorporate my Hey Tori logo, and I'm thinking I'm going to applique Hey Tori over it, or
It'll
maybe
be
just
fun.
do like,
Yeah.
what do you think about clear basting it, like clear thread and just basting it? So maybe I can take it off and on, and I don't know if that's worth it.
Yeah, that might work. Or make if you appliqued the Hey Tori on muslin or something, I sheer tulle even, then you could, like you said, then you could baste it onto the quilt and it could be removable. So,
Hey, that's
but
a good
then it's
idea.
all still together and you wouldn't have to do the individual letters over and over again. But I'm sure you'll figure out something great.
It's going to be big too. It's going to be like, I think I decided on a 48-inch because I want it to also maybe be used for, like, a photo backdrop, so I kinda
Uh-huh.
want it to be big. I don't want it to be, like, little tiny. I do want
Right.
it to be big, so it's gonna be a and I already got some of the fabric.
Yeah.
I used and this might be really cool for audience to know. I used a app called Quilty Solid to figure out what colors were in my logo and translate them to fabric, and it was able to pull up, fabric from different, companies like Moda
Yeah.
and, um,
So
e
do a quick,
art gallery.
uh, a quick, screenshot demo, not here on the podcast, but I'm saying um, for the group or for Patreon or for your social media, because
That'll
that
be
is
good.
a great tutorial.
Yeah, it made it easy to go find the fabric, but I did notice that some of the ones that I thought were gonna be dark, 'cause it plays on dark and light, so dark
Mhm.
pinks and light pinks, dark blues and light blues. The darks were not dark. So I'm gonna
Oh,
have to go back in and figure out new dark ones, but otherwise, it worked out really well.
okay. Very cool. Very
What are you
cool.
sewing on, Andy?
Well, I recently had a wonderful experience in the Quilters Paradise Summit, and Jamie Bright was a guest on the podcast a few weeks ago and gave us all the tips, and it was so fabulous. But I offered a free pattern that features my stretch star, and I'm showing it for the people on Facebook. This uses my half rectangle triangle units. And so I'm planning a quilt along with this star block in a new layout. So that I've got to get all the details worked out, and I've got fabric pulled for it. So that's going to be my next sewing adventure.
That's exciting. Are you making anything for H&H?
Oh, I'm not making anything, but we kinda had a strategy session in our Patreon Q&A, and the topic of T-shirts came up, and I think I want to get some T-shirts printed that say, "Stretch" and have that star on it, or, "Ask me how to quilt a little bit different," put that on the back
I
of a
like that.
T-shirt, and we've had success with a podcast T-shirt that says, "Ask me about my favorite podcast," and when I wear that in public to quilt shows, I get several people that will tap me on the shoulder and say, "Okay, you wanted me to ask, what's your favorite?" And then I can share about quilting on the side.
No, I like that because you have the little bit different ruler,
Yes, yes.
which is actually
So
in the frame behind me is that orange square because I use it for my postcards when I did the little
yeah,
quilted
so
postcards.
fun.
Awesome. Oh, I'm really excited about H&H, obviously, we keep talking about it because it is this year the show to go to, whether you're going to go in Chicago in May or to Houston in the fall. So I hope you guys are listening, and I hope that you look into it and see if it's for you. It may not be feasible this year, but maybe next year so you can plan ahead.
Yeah, and I am looking forward to being with Tori in person at booth 1707 in May at H&H in Chicago. So we'll see everybody there. Leave us a comment, join us in Patreon if you want to talk ahead of that, and we look forward to being back with you soon.
That's a wrap on today's conversation. We hope it gave you something real to take back to your business.
And if you liked this episode, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more quilters find the show and feel a little less alone on their entrepreneurial journey.
And if you want more support, from behind the scenes content to live chats, you'll find more in our Quilting on the Side community on Patreon. And as always, don't forget to do
A little
quilting
on the side.